This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show. This is attorney Marc Kapetan, your host. Today's show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. We've been serving the Central Valley since 1995. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, give us a call at 559-498-8000. Or if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call the Kapetan Brothers at 559-498-8000. Monday through Fridays, Saturdays if you need to, if it's an emergency, Sundays also. Kapetan Brothers, we're the Valley's law firm. We'd like to thank our sponsor for today's show, Arc Mediterranean Grill. They have two locations. By the way, we love Arc Mediterranean Grill. I just went with John Sotelo again, Marcella. We had him for the office lunch. We had him for Easter lunch. We had him a few weeks later with my buddy John Sotelo. We had the luscious lamb chops, and we had some salad and a little bit of dolma. I love the dolma over there at Arc Mediterranean Grill. So two locations, one in Fresno, one in Clovis. Arc Mediterranean Grill, brought to you by the Akisian Brothers. Thanks for being the sponsor. Folks, I want you to indulge me a little bit today, all you friends out there. Every blue moon or so, listen, I have astronauts, I have politicians, which my next guest is not. He's not an actor, he's not a businessman, he's not a... Listen, sometimes I just want to have a little fun with my friends. And so I'm going to ask you to indulge me. You know, being the son of a Marine, we didn't have a lot of old friends. And this gentleman, I don't want you want to use the word old, but he's one of the...
Or gentleman.
Or gentleman, yes, that's true too. But he is a old friend from back in the day. Actually, I have two old friends here. One who's choosing to be on the air and the other one who has better sense. You know, it's weird because most of my friends, some of them may remember my dad, the colonel as they call them. Hardly any of them remembered my mom because she passed so early at 55 years old. But, you know, when I have friends who could go way back and actually remember those people, it's just so special to me, and they've remained friends all these years because they know my history, they know where I came from. Many years ago, I worked at a place called Festival Cinemas, and I don't know if you all remember Festival Cinemas, one of the early theater chains here in Fresno. And I worked with a couple guys there, one who's with me today. Also, he was on KFSR radio back in the day. I answered the phones for him. I think the number was 248, I want to say 6858 or 6484.
That's right.
248-6484. I think that's what it was.
It could still be.
I think so.
Who knows?
So this gentleman went on to radio at KKDJ, went over to Arizona. He's now at Estero Radio. Is that what it's called? Estero Bay Radio? Public radio?
Yes. And their station is technically 97.3 and 107.9 The Rock.
The Rock.
Because everything in Morro Bay is named after that big
that
hunk of rock out there.
Anyway, listen, a walk down memory lane on the Marc Kapetan Show with a knucklehead from my past.
This is the longest intro before you've said my name ever. It's amazing.
And that name would be?
Am I saying it?
Yeah, do one of your radio intros.
I have to introduce myself?
Yeah, do that.
This is how I used to introduce my show at KFSR through every station I've worked at and currently over on the coast as well. A gracious good day to each and every one of you. I'm Dead Air Dave, your cordial master of ceremonies, and then so on and so on.
Marcella, is that a radio guy now?
Yes.
Marcella says yes. She knows radio. I get in trouble because I say I'm not a radio guy. That's because you have the voice too. Dead Air Dave Cezzino. Am I supposed to say the last name?
You can say it, yeah, because no one can remember that name.
Yeah, no one can remember it or read it.
Yeah, no.
There's too many vowels.
No.
Shajine.
And they move the H around. No one knows where to put that H in there. People think it's an Italian last name until I spell it and then they see the H.
Yeah.
No self-respecting Italian has an H in their last name. No way. So they know it's not Italian the minute they see the spelling.
And how do you pronounce it in Portuguese?
Sozinho. You kind of mush it a little bit.
Sozinho.
Yeah, Sozinho. Yeah.
Pretty good for a non-Portuguese guy.
Well, Portuguese, my parents, after quite a few years of being married, discovered that they couldn't produce children on their own, so they bought me on the black market. And as it turns out, the adoption agency waited years to give them a child, and they went back and inquired, like, what's taking so long in this process? And they said, well, we really have a hard time matching an infant to you. And they said, well, we don't really care. Now, these are Portuguese people. They're roughly 5'6", 180 pounds,
right.
Dark hair, dark eyes, dark complexion. The minute they opened that floodgate saying they didn't care if it matched or not, they brought me out, and they ended up with a 6'4", blonde hair, blue-eyed, Swedish-looking kid. And
Marcella, his mom, lovely, lovely woman, Emily, is about 5'2", a little round, So tell the story. So Dead Air Dave we just announced he's adopted, right? Okay. And I got to say, you're a wonderful guy, because you always used to tell me, I don't care about finding the quote unquote real mother. My real mother is my mom, Emily. It's just a beautiful, and she's the most wonderful lady in the world. So here's the scene. Little Dave is about 3-4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, whatever. They're on the beach somewhere, probably in Morro Bay, right?
Morro Bay, yeah.
Okay. And what happens?
So the parents are all standing back away from the water, watching their kids splash around in the surf. And this one woman standing next to my mom is looking out at all the kids playing, and she shakes her head and she says, oh my, look at that sad little thing out there. And my mom said, what do you mean? And she says, look at that one child out there. He is so sickly. I wonder what could be wrong with him. And my mom said, well, maybe he's just a skinny kid. Oh, no. I can tell, I know about these things. And obviously there's something horribly wrong with that child. And shortly thereafter, I come running up the beach. Mom. And the woman sees who I'm running to and make a quick about face and darted off without a word. So then there was also the time in church, my dad is standing there at the pew, and next to him is me, and then my sister, and then my mom. And this woman over to his left at one point says, I noticed this little boy keeps calling you daddy. And my dad said, yeah. And she said, he doesn't look anything like you. And my dad shoots a look over at my mom and then back over to the woman, and he says, I've been meaning to ask her about that. So,
folks, you got to listen. Dead Air Dave, my buddy, Dave Sozinho, the Portuguese guy, you are 6'3", 6'4", 100 and what? 150 pounds.
Yeah, I know.
He looks sickly.
He does. He does look sickly.
I'll tell you, it amazes me every time I see you, especially the jeans. And when I see the jeans, you are so thin. Did you ever figure out what that's all about?
For every Halloween, I dress as Jack Skellington,
right? Because
no one else can pull off that physique,
right? Yeah, but, you just have to take in the pants a lot more than everybody else, and.
They're custom made. I have my own brand of jeans. These are Dead Air wear. The label says so right here on the back.
You have, that's right.
They're custom made for me.
Where do you get them custom made at?
I can't reveal that.
Oh, you can't reveal that. Okay, no. They're very nice. Because believe me,
at the Dead Air Dave Jean Factory.
I need custom jeans too, and I'm not joking around, because I tell people the length from my belly button to the bottom of my crotch is like 3 inches. That's it. You know,
right? No waist.
Yeah, there's no waist. I have no ass.
Me too.
And so you buy these jeans, and I'm swimming in them. I can't stand it. So I buy skinny jeans, and now I'm a 60-year-old guy in skinny jeans, and that's a completely ridiculous look.
I'm all legs.
Yeah.
So, like, you and I sitting next to each other, you're probably taller than I am.
Well, and we've done that before.
And, yeah, I'm all legs. I'm built like a daddy long leg spider.
We'll be back with the daddy long legs right after this. This is Dead Air Dave on the Marc Kapetan Show. We'll be right back after this. This is KMJ. This is KMJ at KMJnow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. Folks, you know the drill. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, Dave, who do you call?
Kapetan Brothers Law.
With the pure radio voice, folks. Yes, Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. That's Dead Air Dave Sozinho-The, Dead Air Dave Sozinho. Folks, Kapetan Brothers, I'm serious. I'm going to pop this music down just a little bit. If you have been injured in an auto accident or some sort of accident, listen, I know you're hurting. You're not sure exactly who to call, where to go to. And so I want you to do yourself a favor. If you have a friend who's been injured, do them a favor. Call the Kapetan Brothers at 559-498-8000. We'll answer your questions, ease your concerns, and if we can represent you, we'll represent you. Hopefully, if it's an injury accident, we could get you the money that you deserve. We've won millions of dollars for our clients, and so 559-498-8000, Kapetan Brothers, the Valley's law firm. Right, Dave?
Even if someone shoots you a dirty look that you don't like,
even if someone shoots
call
you,
the Kapetan Brothers. They could sort that out for you.
Yes, exactly. Oh, believe me, we get those calls too. Yes. I had a call today. Finally, well, I can't say what I told the guy, but I said, "Listen, man, I can't help you, pal." So. At least you're honest about it.
Oh,
yeah. No, and and that's one thing. Our reputation is that we've always been honest guys, and we help our clients. So I'm not going to get into a commercial and have you endorse us.
Yeah, because if you do, it's going to cost.
Yeah. Dead Air Dave.
I need all the money I can get.
Listen, Dead Air Dave, you're doing just fine over there in Morro Bay. Dead Air Dave, he's from the Valley. No, it's not. It's Estero Bay. Is that how you pronounce it?
Estero Bay. Yes.
Public radio. Mm-hmm. In Morro Bay, where every Valley resident retires.
It's so true. Come on over, say hi.
He was KFSR back in the day, college radio, KKDJ, doing that 2 to 6 shift. Ooh.
Oh, I worked just about every shift at KKDJ at one point. I even did mornings with Dean and Don for a stretch.
Yeah. Oh, did you really?
So it was Dean, Don, and Dave. We used to say it was the Breakfast Club in 3D.
I didn't know you did. I'm sorry, I just swallowed some water there. Bad radio. I didn't know you did that, really?
Yeah. I
don't remember.
I literally worked every air shift at that station in the 8 years that I worked
All
there.
I know is you did the 2 to 6 shift, and man, did I get in trouble with my dad because of that. Because I would sit with you the whole 2 to 6.
Hang out all night long on the air.
In the morning, 2 to 6.
Yeah.
And I remember you could go down Fresno Street at 33 miles per hour, and you could hit every light, or you get every green light.
Hit all the greens.
Yeah. And I would get home, and my dad would be like, "What the heck?" He grew up in Chicago back in the day, so he was out, committing crimes back in the day. I'm sitting with you at a radio station answering phones.
Yeah. You weren't getting in as much fun as he was when he was your age, Jim, being out all night.
What great days those were. Oh, my Lord.
Oh, it was a blast. I not long ago posted on Facebook that through my years of working in the radio and record industry, I feel as though I've never really worked a day in my life. And, I put it on the line for my so-called friends.
Yeah.
Your Facebook friends, not just random people.
Yeah.
And all I received back from that comment was a laundry list of FUs.
Really?
They're all like, well, thanks a lot for making me feel terrible about my job.
I've struggled my whole life.
Yeah, well,
your dad would not have been happy to hear that either.
No.
Your dad was a very hardworking guy. Grew up in Hanford, right?
Around there. Yeah, working dairies, milking cows, as he used to call it. He said he was a cow sapper.
A cow sapper?
Yeah, a cow sapper. And but he got out of that as soon as he could.
John Sozinho, who found his lovely wife Em at what age?
Well, my mom likes to say she graduated from Hanford High School in June and was married by September.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was her maiden name? I never asked that.
Rocha.
That's right. She's a Rocha.
Portuguese on Portuguese for the tall, skinny white kid and his parents. But,
Dad worked at Beacon Oil.
Yes. He couldn't get away from the dairy quick enough.
Right.
He wanted to get the cow smell off of him as much as possible.
Yeah.
So he jumped into, at the time, in the late 50s, early 60s, one of the most technologically advanced industries in the country, getting into the petroleum industry.
Yeah.
And worked at Beacon Oil Company that was housed right there in Hanford originally, had the refinery there, and he worked in the office.
All of it's shut down now. It kills me.
All gone. But he loved, most people, complain about having to wear a suit and tie to work, but he was so glad to get out of bib overalls and wear a tie every day.
Right.
He relished it.
What did he do for them?
He was the TBA general manager.
What's TBA?
Tires, batteries, and accessories. That is everything except the gasoline part. So if you went to a Beacon, this was back in the days of real service stations, right? So if you went to the gas station, anything you bought there besides the gasoline out of the pump was through his department.
Can you imagine, Marcelo? So not only is this tall Swedish guy, that's his son, but his dad was such a hard worker. And I remember he used to say, Dave, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, Dave. You gotta do a little squeaking if you want to get by in life, And Dave would always be like, I don't know, Dad, I can't. So Dave, being the good son that he is, decides to follow in his dad's footsteps and become an art major. Because
that was irony there, folks, in case you didn't pick that up there over the airwaves.
So he not only looks nothing like them, but he decides, hey, Dad, I know working in the oil business and working in the fields, everything, that's the life for you, and you've taught me everything I know, but I'm going to become an art major and be an artist.
Yeah.
How did you get into that?
The art thing?
Yeah, the art thing.
From just a kid, I just drew and painted, and my parents had no concept of what anything of that was about. But they were very encouraging. And
they were. So they didn't say, "Hey, no, Dave, you can't make a living on art."
I think back about some of the things they let me do, and they were amazingly tolerant, because I know they couldn't grasp the concept of anything I was talking about. Yeah. They're very meat and potato kind of people, or in this case, sopish and linguiça kind of people.
Oh, nice. Lapis crackers.
You know it. Yeah. And for me to say things like, I would say things like, Dad, I'm going to wear one of your neckties to school, like in third grade. And he would say, well, don't you think people are going to make fun of you? But I like the way it looks. And I would wear, and they'd let me.
You'd wear a necktie.
And I would want to do the weirdest things, and they would let me. And I would think, man, they had to be very understanding because it didn't make sense to them.
Right.
But the dopey, weird kid we bought on the black market wants to do this, so we're going to let him. And
okay, so where? Now listen, I've met your mom, Emily, is so great.
Yes.
That she encouraged you, and we're going to go into the next segment after a little bit of this discussion. She encouraged you to go find your birth mother. And so the question partially is, where did you get this from? But I've met your birth mother, and she doesn't seem, I want to say that wacky.
No, maybe not. She's a little artistic, though. Maybe, I wonder sometimes what it would have been like to have been raised by her. But
nothing compared to being raised by Emily. Right?
It's true.
Okay. So Mom encourages you, and what did she tell you? Something about this poor woman?
She said, I know that you've never cared ever about finding your birth mother.
Right.
But this woman has thought about you every single day since she gave you up.
Yeah.
And wants to know if you're okay.
And being the typical adopted guy, you're sitting here saying, no, she hasn't. She abandoned me. She forgot me. Why do you think I have all these problems?
You're confusing me with one of your other adopted friends.
Frank Arnold. No, we could say Frank Arnold.
Throw it out
there. We have a whole book about his adoption right here. So. But you eventually fill out the paperwork, and we're going to get it to in the next segment. We call this a cliffhanger, folks. On the next segment, you actually fill out the paperwork, and you get a letter back saying what?
But it took like 3 years. Then I thought, well, maybe she passed away. That's why she had inquired.
Right.
And And so instead, we'll get to that part of the story right after this on the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ.
That's how it's done by a real pro. This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Folks, you can check out all the podcasts of all the wonderful hosts here at KMJ. Ray Appleton, E and Philip, Christina Musan and John Broski, The Morning Boys with Chris Gabriel. Yeah, you can check them all out at the podcast section of knjnow.com, or you could get the KNJ app. Also, you could check out the Marc Kapetan show streaming. Are we streaming? No, we're not streaming live, but we stream the show. I don't know what the kids call it, but on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, all that kind of stuff. Smash that like button. Smash that subscribe button. That's how the kids say it, Dave.
Smash it.
Smash it.
Smash it.
We would appreciate if you'd like or subscribe. Also, want to thank the Keesian brothers over there at the Arc Mediterranean Grill. The Arc Mediterranean Grill has wonderful Mediterranean food, mouth-watering hummus, delicious dolma, shish kebabs, shish lamb, right? What do you guys call it something different, the Portuguese?
Well, we probably just say shish, but we spit a lot when we say it and pronounce it like we have marbles in our mouths when we do it. You want something sweet? A little baklava. Dave, you like the baklava, right? I love the baklava.
The Arc Mediterranean Grill has great baklava. 2 locations, Champlain and Shepherd in Fresno, and Herndon and Armstrong. Way out there on Armstrong, by the way, which is now just part of Clovis. It's the city. So take the office for lunch or the family for dinner. Pick up some takeout. You'll love it. I swear to God, you'll love it. The Keesian brothers, good, authentic Armenian goodness, brought to you by the Arc Mediterranean Grill. Thanks for being sponsors of the show, guys. We are back on with Dead Air Dave Cezzino. Dead Air Dave Cezzino talking about finding his birth mother after his wonderful mother, Emily, encouraged him that there's a poor woman out there that's probably longing to meet you. You finally get a letter back. Listen, he's also from KKDJ, from Estero Radio in Mora Bay.
Yes.
What? Okay, Dave, you're holding up your hand. What's up?
Before we start talking about finding my birth mother,
yes.
Early in the show, when you were doing the half-hour-long introduction about me, you were talking about some of your friends who you haven't had long enough to remember your mother.
Yes.
And I remember your mother.
Yeah.
And she is absolutely wonderful. And I grew up in a household where I had a younger sister. I'll tell you what did not happen in that household. She and I did not break into a wrestling match in the living room while everyone's watching television. But at the Kapetan household, that was a regular occurrence. And I remember being over there having dinner. And of course, our friend sitting in the wings over here, Two Hip Chip, also was there. And we would have this amazing meal. Like his mother and his aunt would just work endlessly in the kitchen, preparing this extravagant 4 or 5 course meal.
Yeah.
And we would all enjoy it. It would be amazing. And then your brother Peter at the end with olive oil running down his chin onto his shirt would push back from the table and go, well, another lousy meal down the drain.
Marcel, he would actually say those words, another lousy meal down the drain. He'd take his napkin and he would throw it on the table after about maybe 3 minutes of eating because he would just like vacuum it down. Yeah.
And then of course, Chip and I would help clear the table with aunt and mother, and to which his mother would say, boys, they're helping clear the table, and one of the other brothers, of course, would say, yeah, because they're sucking up to be invited back for food. and then after we have our meal, we're watching television, and suddenly there would be a wrestling match that would break out.
Between Peter and me.
Yeah, on the floor, rolling around. The coffee table gets shoved around.
We're like in boxers that are so ripped up that, God knows.
More to the eye than you would like. And I remember sitting there thinking, holy smoke, what is going on in here? I'm waiting for some adult to scold them and tell them to stop. But no, because that's not like my household. And the match is going on. And I remember one time, Pete had Mark rolled over backwards and twisted like a donut, and he was going, pin, pin, pin. And just nonchalantly, Mrs. Kapetan puts her newspaper down, leans over from her chair and says, no, Peter, that's not a pin yet. And I'm like, she's reffing. She's reffing the wrestling match. And
my mom was a tomboy. My dad used to call her the fourth son, and she would get right in the mix with us if she needed to. I mean, she loved it. To have 3 boys in the family, she was just one of us, and she was the greatest. And the fact that you could recount that story is just so special to me.
Well, I love her. She is a wonderful woman wherever she may be floating around these days. And I relish those times. They were great times.
Yeah, I miss them too. The old two hip chip was there, right, Steve? Yeah, he's in the background there. So. All right, so you have. Let's get back to you and your. Okay,
I want to add.
He's raising his hand again. He's raising his hand, folks. Okay, go ahead.
It's a radio thing. You know, I can't stand when I listen to the radio and then someone likes to give direction verbally, like they don't think people are going to hear it. You know, like I'm going to say something now.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. So anyway, you mentioned that my mother, who raised me, Emily, encouraged me to get in touch with my birth mother.
Yeah.
But the way that really came about, and this element is one you're going to truly appreciate, Mark.
Okay.
This all really started because one of my girlfriends believed that my commitment issues were due to the fact that I was adopted. And she's the one who forced me to write a letter to the adoption
I didn't know
agency.
that. Oh.
Then
by the way, Dave is a perennial bachelor. I mean, you had a small try. You took a swing at it.
That's a whole other show, Mark.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
a whole other show.
We won't get into that.
I believe, in a nutshell, all my friends will say that was the greatest wedding I've ever been to. What a blast. The marriage? Not so much. But anyway. But anyway, so I get the paperwork back from the adoption agency, and I keep joking I was purchased on the black market, but actually it was the Infant of Prague Adoption Agency right here in Fresno.
In Fresno?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so I get the paperwork back, and everything, because back in those days there weren't open adoptions, so all contact information is stripped out. But there was a handwritten letter in there that said, on this date, I gave birth to a boy, and I'm wondering if he ever tried to contact me. And when my mom, Emily, I let her go through the paperwork, and when she saw that, well, she was in tears, and that's when she said to me, "You have to let this woman find you."
Oh, and you finally did. So all those years. Now let me ask you, without getting too, is one of those things. You always said you didn't long for finding out who your real mom was and stuff like that, but you had to have deep inside wondered all those years. When you see a letter like that, what does it do to a guy like you? Do you just toss it to mom and say, whatever? No,
I mean, I suppose you mentioned earlier one of our mutual friends with dealing with his adoption anxiety and whatever. I suppose when I read that, I thought to myself, wow, okay, that other person is actually a real person who is wondering if I'm okay.
And do you have any sense, I didn't think I was going to get into this. Did you have any sense that, this may have contributed to all these issues of commitment and marriage and all these things?
That girlfriend might have been right?
Yeah.
Oh, please.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know. I suppose if I wanted to spend money on therapy, I could find out, but I'm not interested.
Maybe you should.
No, I'm fine. I'm A-okay. But,
coming from the guy who's never been married, never even tried to make... Okay. Yeah.
But...
okay, so...
No, but I'll tell you, I mean, not, again, to sound too flip about it and all, but I remember when my mom said, you have to let this woman find you.
Right.
And I said, but if she does, that's just one more birthday I'm going to have to remember. And I think
do you remember Morgan's birthday? Morgan, right?
Yes. So I did eventually. 3 years later, I got a call from Infant of Prague, and they said, your birth mother has, gotten a hold of us, and we let her know that you've signed the release, but she is too frightened
really
to call you herself. So she wanted us to call you first to ask if you're even interested in meeting.
Yeah.
And I said, sure. And then about a week later, she called me up, and my parents said, we'd like to be a part of this. And I was like, fine with that. So my birth mother, Morgan, became great friends with mom, dad,
Yeah,
John
can you
and
imagine
Emily.
that after like 40
And
something years?
They would. She lived up in Oregon, or lives up in Oregon, and
Yeah.
she would come down and stay with them in Morro Bay and hang out. And she was actually here visiting about a month ago.
And I won't get into the details of it, but not only did she always wonder what happened to you, but she had made arrangements for when she passes. She's made arrangements to remember you, basically. And I won't get into it, but she thought about you way more than you could ever imagine. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Her family never knew that she had this child?
No, they did. I mean, her mother did at least. Because,
But the rest of the family didn't.
You know, the story kind of goes, it's nothing new and unusual. She was an 18-year-old chick that got knocked up in the back seat of a 57 Chevy and then decided, well, what would be better? I suppose not trying to raise a child at 18.
Yeah. And she, I'll tell you what, I think she did you a favor because your mom, Emily, and dad, John, are wonderful people. We'll be right back with Dead Air Dave Sozinho. What was Morgan's real name? Let's don't say that. Yeah.
Same rule.
We're going to go out. The music's ending, so I was trying to get a quick one.
I'm getting walked off.
We'll be right back after this on the Marc Kapetan Show. This is KMJ. This is KMJ at KMJnow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. I am going to actually pot this music down. I want to remind you about the Arc Mediterranean Grill. We love those guys. So our sponsors for the show, we again thank them. But I'm going to pot this music down because we only have about nine minutes or so. And this show has become the Mother's Day special, huh, Marcella? Yeah, we're going to do a Mother's Day special. We've been...
Two moms for the price of one.
Two moms for the price of one. We've been talking... Actually, three moms. Yeah, three. Yeah, you have two moms. Yes, exactly. I didn't even think about that. You have two moms, both of them still around. Man, you are a lucky guy, man.
I'll lease one out to you now and then.
Emily, please. No. Morgan, I would love to have you too. We are on with Dead Air Dave Sozinho. He's an old buddy of mine, and I'm glad you guys are indulging me on the audience out there, my friends out there, on listening to today's show because I have an old friend. I thought it was just going to be reminiscing about the so-called wild and crazy days back in the day. I'm wearing.
I thought we were going to talk about me working at KKDJ instead of being ambushed into a therapy session.
Believe me, it's long overdue. I have my T-shirt that Two Hip Chip gave me from Creatures of the Night album, which is the concert that we saw. Two Hip. What year was that? 83. Two Hip Chip, Dead Air Dave.
San Francisco Civic Auditorium?
Yeah, San Francisco Civic, and the Kapetan brothers went and sold grenades, as we called them, Mickey's Big Mouths, outside of, we sold it, Marcel, outside of the venue because we had bought like a 6-pack or a 12-pack and we had some left over and they were saying, hey, it's time to go into the venue. So we had to get rid of them. So we were selling grenades for $1. So
because that's how industrious we were back then.
Yeah. And now back to the Mother's Day show.
Yes, here we are. A toast to mothers with Mickey's Big Mouth.
Fine kids that they grew, that they raised. I asked you about Morgan's full name because I didn't know if you got a Swedish connection. So don't say the name, but was there a Swedish connection?
You're going to love this. So I finally go to Portland to visit her. And she gives me the crash course on my heritage. One giant scrapbook and photo album after another, page after page after page. We get to the end, and I look at her and I say, so where are the Swedes? And she said, Swedes? What are you talking about? And I said, the adoption agency told my parents I was Swedish, and I pass enough for once, so no one ever questioned it. There were no Swedes involved. I felt crushed. I was like, I have to give up the Swedish bikini team? I'm not doing it. But,
and the lederhosen and everything? I don't know if that's Swedish or not.
There was no Swedes in the mix.
Okay, so what is it?
English, Irish, and Cherokee.
Cherokee?
Yeah.
I have not seen an Indian that looks like you either.
No. Maybe on Dances with Wolves, but that's about it.
Cherokee? Seriously?
That was the deal. Anyway.
Oh, can you imagine Long Arrow would be your name or something like that?
Willow,
yeah.
Remember we worked with a guy at the movie theater who was, I think, Chinese. And he was here. Young.
Young.
Right. And what was his nickname for me? Do you remember?
No.
Chopstick.
Chopstick. That's right. He did call him Chopstick. All 6'4", 200. No, at that time you were about 135 pounds.
Probably,
6'4".
yeah. In college, I was probably about 135, 6'4", 135. I've beefed up now, 150.
Yes. Young also taught me the term milk buckets, but we won't say what that means.
Oh, right. Please.
Yeah.
We've talked about those enough.
Young.
But incidentally, being an adopted child, I was deprived those when at birth, and I think I've been chasing them ever since. So if that answers some questions, there you go.
Milk buckets, he asked us. What do you call them? We're like, we came up with a million names for milk buckets. But all right, folks, this is once again,
show, isn't it?
It's a family show. We're talking about Mother's Day, and that's probably not the most appropriate thing. That's probably not the most appropriate thing. So, okay.
That's why they're there, actually. But we found other uses for them.
Yes, we did. Okay. KMJ, the management at KMJ is now building up their defense from the FCC.
Don't you run a disclaimer?
Yes.
The opinions aired are not necessarily those of KMJ.
I think most guys out there have the same opinions we have regarding milk buckets, Dave.
I think you just want to see how many times you can say that.
Milk buckets. Okay, listen. I don't know how I segue back to your mom.
That's a good question, man. I'll tell you this, though. When I found out her name was Morgan, I thought, well, I'll make the most of this fantasizing thing. And I was like, I would tell people, I found out about my birth mother, Morgan. She's probably Morgan Freeman. She could be my real mother, Morgan Freeman. Of course, it was not.
No, but she was, what was it, one of the first women on the New York Stock Exchange?
Yes, she traded stock as a young woman working in San Francisco at some exchange.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Then she worked for, was it the basketball team, which back in the 60s, which basketball team was still in the Bay Area?
Dave and the Golden State Warriors? No.
Maybe it was Warriors.
Dave and I talking sports, something that you'll never hear.
No.
So, okay, listen, back to Emily, the mom that raised you.
Yes.
It's been, you have, I would say, the lucky fortune of having two moms. Mine passed at 55, but in some respects, it's tough because now all the years of raising you and caring for you is you've now turned that corner in life where you're actually taking care of mom now, huh?
Yeah. And she doesn't care for that at all. She likes to mention to just about anybody who will give her a minute, she'll say that this is the worst part about getting old. She said, I never expected my kids to have to take care of me.
Yeah.
And most people reply the same way, and that is, well, you spent plenty of years wiping his butt. So,
her hips have given out, and
and she's
so
wheelchair bound, but she's still, luckily you hear so many people suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia. She is not luckily afflicted with that.
Marcella, she is sharp as a tack.
She won't remember your name, but she will kick your butt playing Rummy Cube.
Oh, Rummy, doing figures like how we have to time our show and do the gazintas. I say she's great at her gazintas. Basically,
she used to be a bookkeeper for Superior Dairy in Hanford, California, the greatest ice cream on the face of the planet.
That's right,
and. She still loves to do her own bookkeeping. I'll come over to her house some mornings. She's got the spreadsheet all over the dining room table, and she's working, and she puts it all together, and then she gets so frustrated, and she's like, I can't get these numbers to come out all right. And I said, really, how far off are you, Mom? And she's like, $1.17.
Yeah.
And I'm like, $1.17? If my bank account is within $50 of what I think it ought to be, I count it as okay.
Yeah, she still balances her checkbook by hand.
Oh, and her investment. She gets her Edward Jones stuff and her bank stuff, and she puts the numbers together. And if it's $1.17 off, she's going to make a hot phone call to somebody
and give them the business. Yeah, you've been a very good son to that lovely mother of yours, and so
she's a good mom.
Yeah. So on this Mother's Day, to Emily and to Morgan and to my mom up there somewhere, and to Steve, your mom up there in heaven too, right? Yeah. Happy Mother's Day to all you guys. So it's a great show. Dave, for the future, anything?
surfing as much as possible.
Yeah,
once I hightail it out of Fresno on this visit, back to Morro Bay, and I'll be jumping in the ocean.
Yeah, you took up surfing a while ago, which was our deal.
Yeah, you guys grew up surfing, you and your brothers.
So if you see a praying mantis on a surfboard out there in Morro Bay,
it's me.
A pair of chopsticks on a surfboard.
Yeah.
Say, hey, Dead Air Dave.
Yeah. Say that.
Say that. All my love to Emily, your mom. All my love to Morgan, your mom. And to all you mothers out there. And to Marcella, my wonderful, lovely producer, Marcella, a fine mother in her own right. Happy Mother's Day to all you guys out there.
May I lock out the show?
Go ahead, please.
You've been listening to the Marc Kapetan Show right here on News Talk KMJ.